Chapter 46, Wabikimi Canoe Trip plus Fishing. Wolfgang said, "Come on this trip to Wabikimi Park. I did it last year, and I've designed a much more efficient route, a gentle looping passage. It'll be more of a fishing trip than a canoe trip because traveling will be so easy." "Oh yeah," I said. 3 or 4 days, Wolfgang smiled. "You want me to go for a whole week?" Wolfgang says. "It'll be 2 weeks, but you'll just need to drop in a fishing line, and you're guaranteed a huge pickerel, without a doubt. 3 casts, the most. You're guaranteed fish. We probably won't even need to bring much food, except you might get tired of eating fish every day, so pack some alternatives too." I'm a sucker for fishing, and that appears to be the only thing I heard when I agreed to the 2 weeks plus 2 days of train travel. My canoe decided to dump us through rapids, and just for good luck, it then decided to let the current take me downriver and jam me tight up against a rock wall. There I was, pinned with strong flowing water holding me tight. The canoe was now completely submerged and holding. There I stood immobile, waist deep pinned, the current molding the flexible Kevlar canoe against both my legs and making any escape futile. Even levering a paddle against the canoe and rock proved pointless. Wolfgang finally waded over with another paddle. We both levered the canoe, freeing one leg and finally the other. Miraculously, I emerged with hardly a scrape. Together we flipped the canoe upright. Then, while the others rescued my floating gear from downstream, I diligently lined the canoe to safety at the end of the narrows. As harrowing as that ordeal was, it appears that the canoe had one more trick. While attempting to climb up to shore, my holstered bear spray canister caught on the gunnel and somehow activated. Uncertain of the origin of the sound, I scanned in all directions. What was the source of that strange hissing sound? Then I noticed being surrounded by a strange mist. Abruptly, the air in my lungs escaped, and my eyes closed tight with stinging pain. This was followed with a cascade of coughing, spasm, retching, and watery eyes. By this time, Wolfgang made his way back to check up on me. He stared in confusion, observing that perhaps the trauma had resulted in my acquiring some weird form of Tourette's syndrome. After recovering from that experience, our days of beautiful blue skies transitioned into gray cloud cover, followed by 4 miserable days of uninterrupted rain. Those earlier fleeting moments when I occasionally enjoyed the trip were diminished into an exercise of misery. It took all we had to just survive the cold and wet. Water has a way of creeping into everything. As an addendum to this story, I'd like a shout out to the imbecile that designed my expensive raincoat. Perhaps the concept of manufacturing a material that doesn't leak water escapes raincoat designers. But as misery loves company, I garnered some comfort. I believe the German word for that is Schadenfreude. In learning that after days of rain, Wolfgang's twice as expensive $500 Gore-Tex raincoat also soaked through to the bone. But here's my fishing story. During the early days of the camping trip with gloriously blue skies, warm weather, and no sign of rain, the morning was pristine. We were greeted with a perfect summer day as we rose early from tents in our anticipation of our first attempt at fishing. Wolfgang and I paddled hard into the strong current. Upstream, a powerful waterfall churned with mist, sending waves of foggy spray obscuring the otherwise blue sky. As our canoe grew closer to its roar, a gentle breeze turned into a gust, making each cast a test of timing and precision. The wind increased as we navigated close to the falls. The crashing water at the falls was deafening. The current instantly dragged our lures downstream, turning casts into quick, repetitive cycles. We caught 12 very large fish. No, we did not. And I only wished. 2 hours later and still no fish, not even a nibble. We decided to pack it in. Earlier, I recall Wolfgang describing the fishing at that very spot as nothing short of legendary. With a mixture of disappointment and growling stomachs, we began packing up. I untied the canoe and was just about to shove off when the hook sank deep. There was a back and forth thrashing action. I looked possessed. I handed my fishing rod over to Wolfgang and yelled, "Don't pull! Don't pull!" The rod began to bend with the weight. Apparently, while getting into the canoe, my knee grazed off my fishing rod, which was sitting at the bottom of the canoe. This caused the rod to bow and arrow spring up with the attached fishing lure, catapulting it perfectly into my right nostril. The fight continued, with Wolfgang now holding the fishing rod while fumbling to loosen the drag. It proved unsuccessful and the line held taut. The untethered canoe was buffeted by the strong current, but was held in place with only a fishing line and my nostril. "Fish on!" Wolfgang yelled. The look on his face was a mixture of confused humor. The fishing rod continued bending, but my nose held tight. Just then, some clarity of mind must have struck Wolfgang as he exclaimed, "I know what to do! I know what to do!" Smiling, he pulled out his rusty pliers while conveying my options. He said, "I could push the hook through the other side of your nose, then cut off the barb, or I could just yank it out." I continued to maintain complete composure and stopped screaming long enough to yell, "Pull it out!" "Okay," he said, "on a count of 3. In near hysterics, with blood trickling and a ridiculously shiny chrome lure dangling from my face, I must have looked like some punk rocker at a cannibal festival. I yelled, "Pull it out now!" Out it came, with surprisingly little bleeding. Eventually, shoving off, we paddled back to camp, where I began to sheepishly recount our fishing experience to Catherine. She instantly exploded into hysterical laughter, so much so that I was afraid she might lose control of bodily functions. I didn't think that it was all that funny. I explained that I could have tossed that lure against my face all day and not get it stuck like that. It's amazing how a random set of circumstances can occur so perfectly. I decided to fish from shore for the rest of that day. And that's my Wabikimi Canoe Trip story.